When it comes to Fern Stark in the Golden Land arc, they became a part of one of the biggest what ifs in what happened in their encounter against the Nameless One, Greater Demon, Solitär. From a character development standpoint, one can say that they may have peaked here because it won't be until the Foundation Festival arc until we start to see Fern Stark face other kinds of adversity. But the focus of this video will be on whether or not Fern Stark could have beaten Solitär, or would these words of Solitär actually hold true if they never got transmuted into gold. Oh yeah, spoiler warning, I will make some light references to future arcs, but stay anyways because you can't help yourself. And before we continue, it's another day in the Frieren Manga hiatus. Yamada Kanehito and Abe Tsukasa are thinking bigger is better, because they decided that the great mage Serie, the feet goddess, will indeed survive a warrior's strongest attack. Before diving into whether or not Fern Stark would have survived all of this battle damage against someone Frieren specifically mentioned to run away from when facing off against a greater demon, let's take a step back to acknowledge where Fern and Stark are as characters. After the Divine Revolte arc, where Fern and Stark shined, not only for their character growth, but seeing the peak of their abilities being shown, like what happened during the Demon Anya Forger arc. One guy became two halves of the Fist Bros, and instead of doing a lightning strike from up down, he did it from down up. While Fern emitted a dominant aura over Lugner and proceeded to show her inner Stark by not believing in herself against the staff demon, until she unleashed how she can yeet someone by hiding her presence, flying very, very, very far away to deliver a Fern special. Stark is his master student by having an insane ability to just tank what would be fatal blows against any other person, let alone a mage. During the Divine Revolte arc, it was actually Fern and Stark that took center stage, with Frieren taking a back seat where she just watched on from afar as her little purple-haired Southern Lander apprentice struggles with what she is actually capable of. It's an arc where she lost a little bit of her aura, as during the Aura the Guillotine arc she felt a lot more confident in herself. Up until the beginning of the Golden Land storyline around chapter 81, the entire Frieren party has gone on many side quests, with an emphasis being on improving the way they fight together as a team. The anime actually expands on this, and Frieren says it outright. Without Frieren, it really is an entirely new experience seeing Fern and Stark handle themselves without a nice older lady helping guide them. At least on the level of a greater demon. This battle really starts to become a testament for everything Aizen and Frieren poured into their apprentices, with Fern being the brains. Once again, the Golden Land arc becomes a what could have been for both characters, whether they were actually saved or actually could have taken down a greater demon, as that outcome is much debated. Let's just begin with how we can judge how powerful Solitär is. Fern recognized a powerful mana for a brief moment when Solitär approached the Great Barrier to begin analyzing it to help Macht escape. After taking down the barrier, Denken finally sensed her himself and acknowledged that she is on the same level as Macht, whereas Frieren has said, at least based on mana levels, Solitär and herself are similar as well. So basically we can say Fern and Stark are facing, at the very least, a Frieren powered enemy, but with the danger of the unknown. Because you know, to defeat someone, and especially demons, you gotta hit them with the Flamme Special, the element of surprise! What makes it even more nerve-wracking for Stark and Fern's potential fate is Solitär's knowledge and ability to deal with human magic, which is ironically something she has said about humans dealing with the unknown. Unlike Denken, who saved the dense Zoltrak up until the very most opportune time when he was literally dying. Fern used her dense Zoltrak a bit too soon. Remember what Solitär said against Frieren and what happened during Denken and Macht's fight. Demons are able to adapt and learn on the fly the magic. Let's not forget that there is a reason why Macht and Solitär are considered great demons. They are naturally born geniuses in their own right. As far as we know, no one else can actually use the codes. Like in the next storyline in the Goddess Monument flashback, Frieren feared showing her magic from only 100 years into the future. That could have caused a demon magic revolution that could have made the Great War last even longer. Before even entering the Northern Plateau, Frieren gave a stark warning about greater demons, naming off Revale, the bloody god of war, Tot, the saint of the end, and Macht of the golden land. Facing an unknown greater demon means she has lived for so long, and no human lived long enough to tell the tale about this monster that slaughtered everyone she has ran into. Judging by the context that Kanehito and Tsukasa wrote and showed to us, Stark's ability as a frontliner is someone that can at least halfway take on a demon general like a divine Revolte, and Fern is like a mini Frieren in terms of her battle knowledge, but in terms of her mana level, she is far beyond the likes of both Solitär and Frieren. It took both Fern and Frieren to the edge of defeat to fight Frieren's clone during the first class mage exam, one where the clone didn't mind taking in massive damage to fight to the death. Fern has showed us that she has quite the skill set to be a formidable foe, even against Frieren. She can shoot pew-pews really fast, can hide her presence really well, and trick most demons, just not Solitär, which leads to the answer of her accuracy of hitting a Zoltrak from way outside of mana detection range. Her ability to use and manipulate and cast Zoltrak at will is her biggest strength. One of the biggest points of contention is right here, when Fern revealed she can deal a fatal blow with a dense Zoltrak. Let's stop at this point with Fern and Stark's angle and perspective, because this is one of the last moments before both got transmuted into gold. So let's take a look at Solitär and everything that led up to this moment with that dense Zoltrak. When it comes to the nameless demon and greater demon Solitär, in terms of power and abilities, she is nothing like what most other demons we know of are capable of. She is someone that can use and teach human magic. She deciphers every bit of information that went into the Great Barrier. That includes the knowledge of great mages and a host of other human magical backgrounds that culminated in the Continental Magic Association erecting this Great Barrier. Just on a fundamental understanding of magic, Solitär is mountains above Fern. Even with Frieren's tutelage, even with a vast library of magical knowledge, we find out that her battle against Frieren is actually her very first time engaging in mortal combat, as she's only ever fought in an extremely safe way, where she has an advantage like what was mentioned and happened during the Goddess Monument fight against Himmel and Hero. What might be one of the best representations of Solitär's character is her magic ability to summon these extremely large swords, because she is known to agitate and provoke with her words, like, "I yeeted Fern Stark." Solitär's aim to want to experiment with humans by talking to them might be something that the both of them can take advantage of, but I will save that for this upcoming section. Speaking of dense Zoltrak being fatal even for great demons like Macht and Solitär, it is Solitär's dense mana that became the biggest obstacle to both fights between Frieren and Solitär, and between Stark and Fern against Solitär. Frieren's fire and lightning type of spells had no real effect on her, and Fern's fast Zoltraks were largely ineffective as well. Her mana control is also elite, making accurate and precise attacks that make Frieren look like she's the one being slayed. And we can't forget the attack that ended up being the most simplistic. It's the talk to the hand! It is literally a simple discharge of her mana that leaves the ground separate into two cliffs and leaves a sea of trees uprooted where nature's mother wouldn't be too pleased. Starting from the beginning of the encounter, the battle actually begins with a bang from Fern, but it's not something Solitaire is scared of at all from her quick trigger, because Solitaire likes to chit chat with her human prey. She's not in any rush to finish the fight, as she reveals she can summon multiple blades and attack just as fast as Fern can shoot her fast Zoltrax, with both Fern and Stark taking initial damage. We've seen Stark take way more battle damage and Fern fight with wounds before, like against Lugner. As Denken starts to face off against Macht, there is an assumption that there is quite the back and forth between Stark and Fern against Solitaire. Solitaire does what she does best and uses her words to try to befriend and get to know the both of them, using tactics like bringing out Fern's appearance from the southern lands and her wearing Frieren's gift. She even brings up random things like, what do you like to eat? What growing up was like? And what do you do for a living? What dreams do you ultimately have? The concept of a family is foreign for demons like herself, and just as Stark takes more damage because Solitaire got a little more serious, Fern revealed her fast Zoltrack that got through her defenses before her defensive magic could be cast. However, this is where the adaptability of demons to magic is one that seems far superior to humans, as Fern just unloads all over Solitaire. This is the part of the battle that probably looks the most dire for our heroes in Stark and Fern. Solitaire is unfazed by what usually would overwhelm an average demon, and someone like even Ere during the first class mage exam, who Fern said was probably the strongest, yet still much inexperienced, got blued up. Solitaire's mana is just too overwhelming for weak Zoltrax. It is here where Fern acknowledges just how big of a gap it is between them, with a creature that can live centuries upon centuries, and this is where Solitaire reveals something simple. Talk to the hand! Make that two hands. As Stark and Fern take another massive hit, this is usually where the battle starts to reveal who truly has the upper hand, as Fern reveals the thing that she can do that might be too soon to use, but one where she had to use it in order to know if it works. That is the dense Zoltrack. Fern's control of Zoltrack is also very elite. Solitaire can't help but acknowledge how skillful that was with Fern's ability to observe her when she lowers her defenses the most. It is actually a foreshadowing for our Golden Land coexister in Macht. It is the type of damage that would 100% yeet her, because you know, it did happen to someone. To Fern and Stark, they have a definite way to win, but with Solitaire's reaction and what we learn later in the fight against Frieren, she doesn't make the same mistake twice and will adapt. This is where, unfortunately, the battle ends, as Macht's Dia Golds expands faster and faster, overtaking them. If the battle actually continued, I believe this is where we get a third act, nearing a climax where Stark and Fern are in a struggle for their lives. In Solitaire's match against Frieren, it ended up being another battle of attrition, where if it was Fern alone, she would lose, unless her dense Zoltrack actually wins it, but it would take a Denken maneuver at the very end, where she might die, to get Solitaire to lower her guard the most. Stark ends up being the biggest X factor in all of this, because he can help shield Fern until it's the right time to hit Solitaire with that dense Zoltrack. So this is where all the questions we have are posed at this very moment, when Dia Golds robbed us of that Stark and Fern fight against Solitaire, but gifted us a very legendary 1v1 with Frieren against Solitaire. Since we've been only talking about what will happen between just Stark and Fern against Solitaire, I think the next scenario might be the most likely one. Now, there are scenarios where Fern and Stark could win or lose on their own. However, the other scenario we may have to account for is the time it took Frieren to analyze and undo dia golds. We know that after Fern Stark got transmuted into gold, Solitär soon after helped Macht hunt down Denken, and he put down Mr. Zyla, the curse reversal spell, in order for him to preserve his body and life by turning into gold as well. In the meantime, right before Macht and Solitär move on to their next steps to prove or disprove coexistence, which would make a very good what-if scenario. It was here where Solitär informed Macht about what humans are capable of, and to not think lightly of Frieren, even after being turned into gold. Even when humans aren't able to fully grasp what they don't understand, they are able to observe and deal with it. That is what ended up being the case with Frieren's analysis of undoing Macht's dia golds. From the time Fern Stark got turned into gold, all the way until this moment where Frieren recalled the Heroes Party incident against Bose the Immortal, where the impossible can be possible, and they all broke free from what should have been an impossible barrier to get out of. This could have been anywhere from 30 minutes to hours for all of this to take place. And this is where Solitär's biggest downfall lies, because she wants to speak and have these random lengthy conversations to get to know humans like a mad scientist. Wouldn't this scenario make the most sense because of how much Solitär wants to speak? And we know yappers, they take up a lot of time. If Fern and Stark could have held out for another 30 minutes at least, even though Frieren said that she'd finish the analysis in 2 days. But Denken also said that since she is asleep, she's trying to use all of her resources to finish it as soon as possible. And it's only been about an hour since they got turned into gold. And if they could have played into Solitär's hands of getting to know each other, I think it's very possible that Fern could have used her brains to help stall and just speak with Solitär to delay the time period it could take Frieren to undo dia golds, and do the reverse of what actually occurred after Frieren's undoing of dia golds, with Fern burning Solitär from very, very, very far away. In this version of the multiverse, Frieren would be the one to arrive and probably have easily handled Solitär, even if Stark and Fern were near their end, due to Fern being able to inform Frieren right away of what could be Solitär's weakness. And as we all know about fellow one half of the Fist Bros, Stark is the ultimate tank frontliner who could have continued to hold everything down with an ungodly vitality. Frieren, at full strength with her advanced knowledge of using a dense soul track, would have been the easy difference maker. It seemed more than likely when Stark and Fern returned back to normal that it looked like Stark was more than capable of entering the front lines again to help Frieren, as he caught Fern from using all of her mana for that last Ferning. Let's just take a look at what Solitär said herself. There was a slight disappointment as things were just getting interesting. It's a cliche line, but one that is still very effective, which also further fuels the theory that Fern and Stark would have held out longer until Frieren undid dia golds. If they did end up stalling long enough with Solitär going on with rants about humans, demons, and magic, the likelihood of Frieren showing up to help them is the next biggest possibility. Now, did this video truly answer the question if Fern and Stark only could have defeated Solitär? And I say yes, because Frieren was always a part of the equation. So yeah guys, let me know what you guys think about Stark and Fern's battle against Solitär and what you think the outcome would be if they never got dia golds. So yeah guys, appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.